Oh, by the way, we haven't been properly introduced, Melina. My name is Bond. James Bond.
That's Roger Moore in the 12th James Bond movie, For Your Eyes Only, which is one of 4 new summer films we'll be reviewing on Sneak Previews. Across the aisle from me, Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And across the aisle from me is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune. Well, in addition to Roger Moore and For Your Eyes Only, we'll also be reviewing Julie Andrews in S.O.B. and Miss Piggy in The Great Muppet Caper. But first, Gene starts out with Dragonslayer.
Dragonslayer is the latest sword and sorcery adventure to come out this year, and it's quite enjoyable, thanks mostly to a fabulous flying dragon that makes its grand entrance midway through the picture. Dragonslayer is the story of a young sorcerer's apprentice who inherits magical powers from his dying master. The young boy also gets a necklace with a charm, an amulet, that protects him against evil. At first, the boy uses his newfound powers to play tricks on an old friend.
The kindest lord a man could ever wish for. Now he's gone. He's gone. You'd think he could boil his own eggs at the snap of a finger, but no. Had old Hodge to do it. Up at 5 every morning, clearing out the cages, emptying the slops. Never once a thank you or a pat on the back. I shall miss him.
Me too.
No, you don't. All you think about is your tricks and your knavery. But you don't pull any wool over these old eyes. You'll have to walk a long way before you can fill his shoes. You mark my words.
What's the matter, Hodge? Packed too heavy?
Huh? Oh, no, don't. Stop it. But I need that. To give it back to me.
Now, eventually, the young apprentice, played by Peter McNichol, decides to get serious, and so he goes off to help a nearby village rid itself of a dragon who breathes fire and kills young virgins. Some dragon. The first encounter takes place in a lake of fire. The boy has armed himself with a magic sword and his glowing amulet. Good stuff. The film wastes a lot of time, though, I think, getting to that very exciting confrontation. There's an overwrought subplot involving some trickery by the local king to keep his daughter from being sacrificed to the dragon. More interesting is a sweet love story between the young apprentice and a gutsy young woman. But most of all, I just got a kick out of that fire-breathing dragon. The special effects with the dragon are excellent.
In this one, we're pretty much in total agreement. I like the dragon, too. I like the special effects. I like the production design of this film. I really admired the way that they created the Dark Ages. I thought it looked kind of convincing in a way. Everybody's kind of grungy and dirty, and they're wearing rags and walking through the forest. Unlike Excalibur, where everybody was wearing suits of armor that wouldn't be invented for another 600 years.
Yeah, I did get the other film of that time period that I thought was interesting was Roman Polanski's Macbeth a number of years ago, and it was for that very same thing that you mentioned, the dirtiness and the grubbiness of it all. But didn't you want to see the dragon sooner?
The only thing I can say is, yes, I did. I was waiting and waiting for the dragon, but after you wait so long, it's a good thing the dragon is not a disappointment when he finally comes on screen. He is an impressive creation.
And that's why I guess we're recommending the film.
Yeah, the one thing, I guess you also touched on Peter MacNicol's performance. He's a good actor, I suppose. He seemed kind of young and innocent, kind of a beach party refugee or a surfer that wandered into the Dark Ages by accident.
Yeah, but that's using the young hero. It's, I think, more Star Wars Fallout, which is you get this young little kid that the young kids can identify with, so they're trying to slay the dragon too.
Anyway, the movie was fun, right?
I agree.
We're in agreement. That's great. Moving from one kind of fantasy to another, let's take a look now at The Great Muppet Caper, which is the second Muppet movie and sort of a disappointment, I thought. The original Muppet movie, which came out in 1979, told about how Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy and the other Muppets left their swamps and other homes and traveled to Hollywood in search of stardom. Well, as The Great Muppet Caper opens, they're already acting like stars, and the movie really gives them a red carpet treatment. I'm not too happy about that. Instead of treating them as humble little quasi-human animals, this movie treats them as big movie stars. In the movie, Kermit and Fozzie Bear travel to England and get caught up in a caper involving a diamond the size of a baseball and a ring of jewel thieves led by Charles Grodin. In one of the film's most enjoyable scenes, Kermit meets Miss Piggy and they go for a bicycle ride through the park.
Pretty day, sunny sky, lovely pictures dance in your eye. It all seems so right. It all feels so rare. We ooh, Miss Piggy.
The problem with criticizing a Muppet movie after you see a scene like that is that it's almost impossible not to love the Muppets. In the first movie, only Kermit rode a bicycle, but later on in that scene, all the characters get on their bikes. It's a real scene of Muppet magic. The real star of this movie, however, is the complicated, deeply disturbed, and highly neurotic Miss Piggy, whose narcissistic escapism into daydreams has already been well documented in her first film. In this scene, she becomes, as usual, the centerpiece of adoration at a fancy restaurant in London.
You see her, no magical change, no angels appearing, no dreams to arrange, just warmer and colder than springtime or snow. The first time it happens, you know.
What a great number!
Nicky, that's my new receptionist dancing out there.
Which one?
The pig.
She's sensational.
45 words a minute. About average.
Garbo laughs and Miss Piggy tap dances. That's a cute scene, but I wonder how many of the kids watching the movie are going to know that's a satire of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Later in the movie, there's another satirical production number based on Busby Berkeley's syncopated bathing beauties. Well, that may also be more entertaining for adults, I think, than for kids. But the real problem with The Great Muppet Caper is that the movie devotes too much attention to the jewel thief plot and not enough to character. What made the Muppets great in the first place on television and in their first movie was the way they seemed to reflect real human qualities, the way they revealed their frailties, their weaknesses, their hurt feelings, as they tested their vulnerable egos in the non-Muppet real world. Well, this time, they're so one-dimensional, so shallow, and so pre-packaged, why, they're almost like puppets.
Well, I agree with your analysis, but at the same time, I still like the movie more. Let me try and explain why. I agree with you. The jewel theft plot is lousy. It's not very clever or funny or interesting or suspenseful. Very bad. At the same time, you point out how Miss Piggy is really the star of the movie. I agree with you, and I think she's great. Every time she popped up on the screen, I paid more attention to her and attention to the film. I'm not saying that because I want to be cute or trendy with Miss Piggy. I'm not even the biggest fan of The Muppet Show. But she is a genuine actress in this film. When they flip her upside down, you notice how big her thighs are when she has her lines of dialogue and her fantasy. It's interesting. So I'm recommending the film only for those scenes in which she's on the screen.
Well, here's my problem with Miss Piggy. If you remember her from television or from the first movie, she was very vulnerable. She was very insecure. She really hardly had the courage to go out there and face the day. Every morning when she woke up, it was almost like she wanted to go back under the covers again. And then when these wonderful things happened to her in life, like people said, "Oh, Miss Piggy, you're so beautiful," her response was, "Me? You know, are they talking about me?" And then her eyes would glow. In this film, she comes on as a winner from the beginning of the movie. She's always been idolized by everybody in the film, and that seems to me to come so easily to her that we miss what was really special about Miss Piggy.
Well, I think isn't this great? But look at the analysis that we're doing on this piece of foam rubber. I mean, this is why, at least I think you got to grant me that this is a genuine character, and this is what amazed me. As I watched her, I was saying, how many musical comedy actresses who sing and dance do we have? You know, Liza Minnelli doesn't make too many movies. Streisand isn't singing and dancing in the movies lately either. But this pig is, and this pig is interesting.
You know, it's been a long time since we've gotten so involved in the character of anybody in a movie.
So, just on a limited basis, I recommend the film. Okay, I haven't liked the James Bond film, to move on to our next picture, since Thunderball 16 years ago, and that also means I haven't liked a single James Bond film that has starred Roger Moore as Agent 007. The recent Bond films, especially the ones with Moore, have been just gadget shows slapped on top of stupid stories. Until now, I think. Until For Your Eyes Only, which returns, I think, to what made the old Bond films so entertaining in the first place. They were good thrillers first, and then on top of that, they gave us the gadgets, the women, and the fabulous locations. For Your Eyes Only is pretty much one long and exciting chase scene after another, with Bond trying to recover a British nuclear device before the Russians capture it. Helping Bond is Carol Bouquet, one of the best-looking Bond women of all time. She pops up in the same Alpine village as Bond to give him a hand, and now her life, too, is being threatened.
Is this the one you mean, Signora?
Thank you. I'll take it. Deliver it to the Hotel Cristallo, please.
Oh, beg your pardon.
Buongiorno. May I help you?
Yes, give me a dozen lilies, will you? I'll pick them up later. Come on, quick. Send them to the funeral, will you? Hey, slow down. Now, would you mind telling me what the devil you're doing in Cortina?
Your telegram.
What telegram?
It said you found the man and to meet you here today.
I didn't send a telegram. Now, get in. The station, please.
Are we leaving?
Not we, you, and now.
You don't tell me what to do.
Stazione, per favore.
Now, movie fans may recognize Carol Bouquet from her role in a much more serious film a couple years ago, Louis Buñuel's The Obscure Object of Desire. Now, eventually, Bond and Bouquet find themselves tied together at the end of a rope attached to the enemy's boat. One of the agents is working for the Russians, and he's about to drag Bond across a razor-sharp coral reef. But Bond isn't worried.
Oh, leave the legs free. They'll make appetizing bait.
I didn't think it would end like this.
We're not dead yet. Hold tight.
Turn around. We go again.
Take a deep breath.
This is a very exciting film with some of the best chases I've seen since, well, 3 weeks ago, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Also, the villains in this film are quite believable characters, not silly cartoon figures as in the last few Bond pictures. Good chases, credible villains, a beautiful woman. That's more than enough for me to recommend For Your Eyes Only.
Well, I liked it too, and I would recommend it too, but I did not enjoy it nearly as much as you did in terms of going all the way back to movies like Dr. No and From Russia with Love. Those were the real classics as far as I'm concerned. And this movie, I don't know, maybe it's because there have been too many Bond pictures, but I felt as if I'd seen many of these ingredients before in other movies, like the ski chase and the underwater stuff.
Well, those things have been done, but I think the point that I'm trying to make is the following. I thought when the beginning Bond pictures, everybody was out to try and prove something. They were inventing a genre, as it were. And I thought they did a very good job. Then, with Roger Moore, I think everybody got overconfident, and they thought they could put in any star and do anything and be sloppy and throw in a lot of commercial plugs, and it would still sell all around the world, which it did. Now, I think with this film, I detect a change. I think that somebody's really trying here to move a picture along, move it, be a little rougher, a little more with a believable picture, rather than these silly laugh-at-the-villain films.
I'll tell you, Gene, the last thing I'm looking for in a James Bond picture is believability. And I really like the villains that they had in some of the previous pictures who were totally creations of fantasy.
No, but what I'm talking about are the two pictures you named, Dr. No and From Russia with Love, are a little rough. Fine, but those were very exciting, and they were a little harder, a little tougher, and that's what I liked about them.
Well, I think you're looking for the right things in the Bond pictures, but I don't think I found those things in this picture. Let's move on to another film. I know it's only a coincidence, but it sure is a wicked coincidence that only a few months after Heaven's Gate became the biggest bomb in box office history, here comes a comedy about a filmmaker who's stuck with just having made the biggest bomb in box office history. The name of the movie is S.O.B, which stands for Standard Operating Baloney or something like that. S.O.B is about the director of a colossal box office turkey that's going to lose $30 million. And in desperation, the director, played by Richard Mulligan of TV's Soap, decides to reshoot some of the movie's key scenes as sex scenes. And he convinces his prim and proper wife, played by prim and proper Julie Andrews, to shock the world by starring in the nude scenes. Can she go through with it? Well, it's going to be a close call.
It's no use. I can't do it. I thought I could, but I just cannot.
Sally.
No, Cully.
Sweetheart, will you
No,
please?
Felix, no, no, no. There is no way in God's earth that I'm going to bear my heart out there on that stage.
Sally.
I thought I could.
You can.
My mind says yes, but my body says no.
But Sally,
Now, I know what it means to the film. I know it means that I'm not being a trooper and things like that, but it's out of my hands. I'm helpless.
Sally will clear everybody off the soundstage.
It won't help.
It's just one shot. We will set the lights, turn the camera, everybody will leave.
No.
What about the guy in the jacket box? We'll blindfold him. Nobody will see.
My public will see. My children will see.
It will be R-rated. They won't even let them in.
But they'll know. Don't you care if they know? God, Felix, they're your children, too.
Sophia Loren has children. I hear she's a wonderful mother. She would never do anything to hurt her children, and God knows the public has seen her.
Oh, I know.
Ben Cully. Landon Jackson. Landon Jackson, a fantastic mother. Vanessa Redgrave. You never find a better mother, somebody who's not English. Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda. Shirley MacLaine. Shirley MacLaine. Liv Ullman, Liv Ullman. Liv Ullman. I think so. Liv Ullman.
It's great.
Well, that settles it. There you have it, one of the classic confrontations in movie history, Julie Andrews versus the R rating. S.O.B. stars a dozen or more familiar Hollywood faces. In addition to Julie Andrews and Richard Mulligan there as her husband, we also saw William Holden as a degenerate movie director and Robert Webber as a press agent. They're great to watch in this movie, which is wicked and cynical and sometimes very funny. There are a lot of in-jokes in S.O.B. and a lot of characters who are obviously inspired by real people in the Beverly Hills phone book. In fact, the movie itself was inspired by director Blake Edwards' unhappy experiences with Darling Lily, a multi-million-dollar bomb he made in 1970, which also starred Julie Andrews, who is his real-life wife. That movie was released by Paramount Pictures, and now comes S.O.B., his savage attack on Hollywood insanity, hypocrisy, and greed, also released by Paramount Pictures. Truth is not always stranger than fiction. Sometimes truth is exactly the same as fiction. Blake Edwards put a lot of himself into this film. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it hurts, sometimes it's brilliant as a good illustration of that old Hollywood practice of stripping away the false tinsel to get at the real tinsel inside.
I think it's a wonderful film, too, and I laughed a lot at it. I thought it was very wise and very sharp, and I thought it came out at a good time, just when I think we were going to be overrun by Hollywood films pitched only at teenagers, where, you know, a food fight is a serious moment. We get this adult comedy, and I think it's great. I am relieved to see stories about people in their 50s and 40s examining their lives, commenting on the movie business. I think this is great. Together with 10, I think these two pictures, 10 and now S.O.B., both by Blake Edwards, I think he's doing a great job of making movies.
I just gave the movie a good review. I would not compare it with 10, which I think was one of the best movies of 2 years ago. It's not that good, I don't think, and there's one problem with it. That is, I think Mulligan's performance as the director. He was directed to play the director on the wrong note. He's constantly going around as distraught, suicidal, overwrought, and it's basically overacting. If he were played closer to real life, I think it would make his entire situation funnier.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned that, because I think that there is a strain in Blake Edwards' work which gets overbroad. Remember when Dudley Moore fell down the hill in 10? It was that too much kind of thing, I thought, and that's true in the beginning of this film. At the same time, of all the pictures that I'm seeing around now, I want to see this picture again. I laughed at a lot of this film, and I thought the whole business with Julie Andrews commenting on her image and the whole business of they'll do anything to make the movie, to make the buck. What's up is down when it comes time to make a profit. I thought this film was very funny in that way.
Here comes some movies that aren't so funny, because here's Spot the Wonder Dog leaping into the balcony to help us pick out the week's worst movies, the dogs of the week.
Well, my dog certainly isn't a laughing matter. It's Maniac, a disgusting horror show that forced me out of the theater after only 30 minutes. Maniac is a repulsive story of a berserk killer in New York. This is an extremely brutal film that thoroughly grossed me out, and what sent me out of the theater so early was the scene where we see a head hit by a shotgun blast and it explodes in slow motion. That came after a couple of throat slashings and a vicious strangulation. Maniac is making its slimy way into theaters all around the country, so be on the lookout for it and avoid it.
You know, sometimes that's a very valid reaction to just walk out on a film like that, even if you're a movie critic, because as a civilized person, there's no point in sitting there and watching that kind of stuff.
There was no point at which the film was going to redeem itself after that. It was a real gross-out show.
Sounds bad. My dog this week is probably not as bad as Maniac, but it's pretty bad. It's called Beyond Evil. Maybe it should be retitled Beyond Comprehension. It's a completely muddled, ridiculous mess that combines voodoo, haunted houses, ghosts, and faith healers, into a story so confusing that even the characters are messed up. They talk about yesterday when what they mean was the day before yesterday in this movie. The movie stars John Saxon, who's just been appointed by our president as ambassador to Mexico. He co-stars with Linda Day George as a married couple who go to live on a tropical island. They move into a vast old manor house that island reputations say is haunted. Well, they should have listened to the natives. Linda Day George is possessed by the spirit of a woman who was murdered in the house, and then they try to bring in the faith healer to cure her. Now, this is one of those movies where here's how the heroine spends her day. First of all, she gets a knife wound that mysteriously heals. Then she gets eyes that turn green and shoot death rays at people. Then she has hallucinations about pagan rituals, and she still has dinner on the table when her husband comes home.
Okay. Well, so much for the dogs. Now to recap our reactions to the main movies on this show. Both Roger and I enjoyed Dragonslayer, a wonderful adventure film with a fabulous flying dragon. 2 yes votes for that. We split on the second Muppet movie, The Great Muppet Caper. Roger thought it was too much about the jewel robbery and not enough about the Muppets. He votes no. Well, I didn't like the jewel robbery either, but Miss Piggy was on screen enough for me to recommend the film. And 2 strong yes votes for the latest James Bond film, For Your Eyes Only. It has one great chase scene after another. And we agree on S.O.B., the Blake Edwards put-down of Hollywood movie making, which he sees as a business full of people who will do anything for a buck. 2 recommendations for that.
And by the way, on a program 2 weeks ago, at the end of the show, we listed an R rating for Raiders of the Lost Ark, and actually it's rated PG, so we stand corrected.
Right.
Now, about this show, what do we like the most? Probably S.O.B., right?
That's the one that I would go to see first, and then after S.O.B., I'd go to see the James Bond picture.
And then after that, you go to see Dragonslayer. Actually, after 6 months in 1981 of really slow going at the box office, things are pretty good right now.
A fabulous movie summer.
Okay, so much for this week. Next time on Sneak Previews, we're going to perform an exercise in self-analysis. We call it More Guilty Pleasures, a program where Gene and I each choose 3 movies that we're almost embarrassed to admit we like. And our guilty pleasures this time are a pretty mixed bag. Movies like Private Parts, Invasion of the B-Girls, and Massacre at Central High. Believe it or not, these are movies we really like, even if hardly anybody else does. So we'll try to show you why next time, and until then, see you at the movies.
Funding for Sneak Previews was provided by this station and by other public television stations.